Hello, everyone. Welcome to this 75th episode on a Treatise on Cosmic Fire. Last time we started with question 3. Why is the solar system evolving along the lines of duality? A question that DK tells us has been explored by religious people, scientists, philosophers, biologists, and mathematicians. We then took a look at how each of these disciplines approaches the subject of duality leading to unity in their particular search for causal levels, the causal levels that substand duality. And it looks different with each discipline. Religious philosophers ask, if God is perfect, why would he deem it necessary to create an imperfect world? And why should all beings be compelled to participate in existence with its suffering and limitations and struggles? Scientists strive to formulate underlying laws, constants, and principles that explain why the universe behaves as it does. Beyond mechanics, science implicitly seeks causation and purpose to uncover what motivates or drives phenomena. Philosophers look at the subjective principles of consciousness that express themselves through moral, ethical, and cultural life across all civilizations, looking for the common thread. Spiritual philosophies like theosophy look for the principles of being and seek to understand the hierarchy of cause and effect. Biologists and chemists study atoms, cells, molecules, and evolutionary processes, seeking the origins of life through biology. Mathematicians investigate the measurable dimensions of the physical plane by examining form, structure, and the laws of relation. DK concludes this inquiry with, so the problems persist, and all the many lines of approach in the endeavor to find the solution end in the cul-de-sac of hypothesis and in the recognition of an ultimate something of such an elusive nature that men are forced seemingly to predicate a source of energy, of life, of intelligence, and to call it by diverse names according to their trend, religious, scientific, or philosophical. Next, DK formulates his own approach to the problem of duality by stating that the nature of existence cannot be solved until the investigator recognizes that, one, the entire solar system embodies the consciousness of an entity who originates on planes entirely beyond the solar ring pass knot. Two, that manifestation is periodical, and that the law of rebirth is the method that evolution takes in dealing with a man, a planetary logos, and a solar logos. And three, that all souls are one with the oversoul. These are the three fundamental postulates. They appear in the beginning of the Secret Doctrine and in the beginning of a treatise on cosmic fire. Next, we learned that the duality of the solar system will eventually be recognized as dependent upon the following factors: existence itself, time and space, the quality of desire or necessity, and the acquisitive faculty inherent in life itself. This latter point, the acquisitive faculty, is the cosmic principle of attraction, which is both the motive and the means by which the indweller seeks form through vibration, circulation and movement. Spirit draws matter into patterns. This produces form-building activity. Atoms combine, bodies are constructed, vehicles are fabricated. So we have three principles working together. Desire compels life to seek form. The evolutionary drive, here called necessity, ensures that form will be built, and acquisitiveness gathers the material to make this building process actually happen. DK then tells us that there is a mighty intelligence who works thus through an ordered plan, and who consciously takes shape and incarnates in order to carry out specific purposes of his own. This is the SON, the sun aspect of the solar logos, whose ordered plan is a blueprint for the evolution of the solar system. Then we learned that the solar logos, is more than a man, for he is the sum total of all the evolutions within the entire solar system, including the human, which is an evolution standing at the middle point in relation to the other evolutions. And that pretty much takes us up to where we left off last time. So, I want to invite you to ask questions and make comments anytime you'd like. If you think your question is basic, there's probably half the attendees here would also like to ask that question. So don't be timid. Go ahead and ask your question if you need to understand some basic tenet. That's perfectly all right. The only thing I ask is that you keep your questions, within the parameters of the subject matter that we're actually studying here. Okay, so we'll start this session at the point we left off. On one side of him are arranged hosts of beings who are more than human, and who in past kalpas reached and passed the stage where man now is. Such beings include solar angels, the informing lives of kingdoms of nature, globe lords, chain lords, scheme lords, and members of the data evolution of development higher than man, such as the Raja Deva lords of planes and the lords of subplanes. These quote unquote ranged hosts are found in the highest three hierarchies of the incarnated hierarchies of this solar system. Next, on the other side, are hosts of the subhuman evolutions, who in future kalpas will achieve the stage of humanity. These include the animal, plant, and mineral kingdoms, but also the myriads of lesser lives that make up the form world, which can be found in the 6th and 7th hierarchies. Can we get a reader for this comment on the lowest two hierarchies?
And Veronica, you want to read?
Yes. Hello.
Hello.
The seventh hierarchy is the life or energy found at the center of every atom, its positive aspect, and the sixth hierarchy is the life of the forms of all the etheric bodies of every tangible object. The function of this hierarchy is well described in the words of the old commentary. The devas hear the word go forth. They sacrifice themselves, and out of their own substance they build the form desired. They draw life, and the material form themselves and yield themselves to the divine impulse.
Thank you, and Veronica. Any thoughts or questions? Okay, finally, man stands midway between the two. and is at the point of balance. Herein lies his problem. So, because humanity stands at the pivotal midway point, its destiny is to act as a focal point for the three lower kingdoms and a mediator between the three lower and the three higher. However, at this point in humanity's evolution, it can and does choose to either identify with its animal nature through personality expression or to evolve through cooperation with the soul. Only when one is soul infused can can a human being act as a focal point for the lower and higher kingdoms. To make the higher choice requires transmutation of instinct into right action and desire into service, leading to a transformation of the personality into a vehicle for soul purpose. Okay, next up, could we get a reader, please?
Barbara, you want to read?
Yes. He does not partake wholly of the material side of evolution, nor is he wholly the expression of the third logos, the Brahma aspect of the deity, who is an expression of pure energy or intelligence, motivating that tenuous something which we call substance. He is not Holy Spirit, the expression of the first logos, the Mahadeva aspect, which is an expression of pure will or necessitous desire, impelling to manifestation. It is the fundamental motive itself of the great will to be. Man is a product of the union of the two. He is the meeting place of matter or active intelligent substance and of spirit or the basic will. He is the child born of their marriage or at one-ment. He assumes objectivity in order to express that which is in each of the two opposites, plus the result of their merging in himself.
Thank you, Barbara. Okay, first, he does not partake wholly of the material side of evolution, nor is he wholly the expression of the third logos, the Brahma aspect of the deity, who is an expression of pure energy or intelligence, motivating that tenuous something which we call substance. So let's take a look at MDR's commentary on this passage. Could we get a reader, please?
Let's see. Diana, do you feel like reading? Okay. Joe.
Good morning, good afternoon. Let us note the excellent definition of the Brahma aspect of deity as an expression of pure energy or intelligence, motivating that tenuous something which we call substance. Is substance to be related to the realm of matter, or does substance only exist when God, the Holy Spirit, Brahma, has acted within matter? A distinction is needed between matter, and substance. Matter with a capital M is mula prakriti, or virgin root matter, undifferentiated and infinitely dense, a reflection of pure being, spirit. B, the second term is matter with a small m. This is matter upon which and within which Fohat, Holy Spirit, Brahma, has done its work, creating differentiated particles, which are nothing but Fohat in multitudinous divisions working in matter. Present is animated, intelligent, wholes in space, matter. C. The relation of matter to substance is relative. When a certain type of matter is vibratorily higher than another type of matter, it is called substance. When matter is lower than another type of matter, which is substantial to it, it is called matter with a small m. D. While there is nothing absolutely definitive in these definitions, they may be a source of useful differentiations when dealing with the confusing subjects of matter, substance, and form. MDR's commentary on TCF.
Thank you, Joe. Any questions about this? Yes, Barbara.
Well, I've often wondered about substance emerging from the devas. So is it matter that emerges, or is it substance? And um, how do the devas use a blueprint for manifestation of the substance or matter?
Okay, so you have what are sometimes called atoms of substance, which are the uh, smallest building blocks, and the the third aspect, um, working through Fohat, works to keep these atoms of substance, the ultimate uh, uh, atom, of which the atoms of science, by the way, are made. Um, that Fohat works to keep them separate, to quote unquote harden the shells that define their ring pass knot, right? Um, but the second aspect of matter, because remember, within the third aspect, the matter aspect, there are also three sub aspects. In other words, the three principles work also within the third aspect. So the second aspect of matter works to aggregate these atoms into forms. Okay, that's Deva work, right? They build the forms necessary so that the indwelling spirit has the most optimal form to function through, right? Um, so the there are the lowest members of the Deva kingdom, called elementals, actually use their own bodies to form these atoms of substance, which is the smallest universal, uh, called universal atoms, which are these smallest atoms of substance. And then a higher line. Now, if we looked at it in terms of hierarchies, let's see, we can go back here to here, that the elemental lives, the basket of nerves, the blinded lives, these are the lives that are used by the builders, which are the Davic, to create atoms at the elemental stage, and then congeries of atoms to create forms. Now, if you have a question based on what I just said, feel free, Barbara.
Yes. So there's a huge amount of form on the earth. Um, so is it that the Deva just gets a process started, or does the Deva actually uh, create a mass of form?
No, they actually create it. There would be nothing to continue. You know, they do the whole creation process. They are the limbs. Sometimes, well, actually, in the parallel study we're doing with secret doctrine. They're called the limbs of Brahma. They're the agency by which the form world is built on each plane of the cosmic physical plane. So when you're looking at the manifested world, which is the seventh subplane of the cosmic physical plane, there's a particular group of devas under the Devic Lord Kashiti, who work to build everything in our visible world, all the forms, right, which are congeries of atoms, right, and they're held together through this quality of coherence, which is implemented by the devas and kept in uh, uh, kept in form, kept working. The cohering quality is continues working through the second aspect of the um, the matter itself, which is to um, seek and adhere or conform to other atoms. That blind tendency is um, uh, used by the building devas to actually build functioning forms. And of course, the blueprint, the actual specific form that's being built, is designed by Deva Lords on the highest subplanes. Does that help?
Yes, it does. Just one other slight note that
Sure.
there are certain scientists at this point that are questioning the existence of atoms. um,
Well,
and
you mean physical atoms.
um,
You mean
yeah,
scientific physical atoms, right? Right.
yes, that they're
Yeah.
more a pattern of energy than a substance.
Right. Well, it'd be fascinating to have, to hear more from you about that. Of course, it all started with Einstein when he said that there really is nothing except energy, which is the concept that lies at the root of the theosophical understanding of atoms. For example, Fohat, which is electricity at the atomic level, uh, is forms the illusion of an atom. It's the spinning of the periphery of the atom, which is the ring pass knot of the inner life. That spinning forms the illusion of a sphere, and that sphere is perceived to be a particle of substance, when in fact it's just an energetic demonstration that is animated by Fohan. So,
Right.
sounds like science is, beginning to pierce that particular veil, right? But it would be, do you want to say a comment or two about what they're beginning to understand?
That there's no ultimate physical substance, that it's layers of energy. From the atom, you can then go to the quark,
Yeah,
and there isn't any final place that,
you can come to an ultimate particle.
yes, yes,
Yeah, it sounds like they're their terminology is always going to be different because the approach is from the measurable substantive world. That's their approach, even though physics is being forced to abandon that idea, through pioneers like Bohm, who've um, recorded concurrent existence of the same particle. That kind of thing has started to shatter the old paradigm. But it sounds like by whatever language that they're coming closer to the, um, to the ageless wisdom understanding of the nature of an atom.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Oh, quite welcome. It's an ongoing conversation. Yes, Aunt Veronica.
Okay. As far as I can understand what Michael Robbins says here, substance is a higher vibrational matter than another. It's relative. You see two matters. The one that has a higher vibration is the one that's called substance. Am I right?
That's his distinction, right? Well, let's see what he says specifically about substance here.
Well, he's saying that at the number C. But as you
Right.
told us, I understood that the last hierarchy, the lower of all, the baskets of nourishment, is that
Right.
the substance?
That's the lowest level of the matter. That would be the B, the which would be a atomic matter and its parallel reality, which would be the little elemental lives upon which, let's see, he literally calls it the basket of nourishment, through which the form world is built, or by which the form world is
That's
built.
not substance.
That's, well, see, I have a little different understanding here. He may be distinguishing, um, yeah, that it's like energy and force. That
Yes, that's what I was thinking exactly. It's the same
right,
conundrum.
yeah. The idea is that uh, substance is composed. Uh, is a Substance is the source of forms, which is composed of little m matter, right? So it has the quality of the second aspect. And in DK's writings, he does suggest that substance is permeated by that a magnetic quality that draws the elements of matter together. Um,
It's the second aspect of matter. What are the three aspects of matter?
well, you
Is it
have
matter
just the
with a
same.
small?
Yeah. Well, you have um, the indwelling spirit aspect, which stands at the center of every quote unquote
Atom?
particle, every atom of matter. That's the first aspect, right? And that's literally like a microcosmic God, because it's no different than the except for and scope than the indweller of a solar system, right? It's because that quality, the Mahadeva quality, as DK calls it, is undifferentiated, right? So it's not, there isn't higher Mahadeva and lower. It's just the pure spirit aspect. It's just that the fragmentation of it um, uh, is such that it can indwell all levels of the material plane, all the way from atoms of substance up to great galaxies, right? And the mystery of that, I'm not, I don't know about, why and how is a particle of, not even a particle, I had a spark of indwelling life um, sent into an atom compared to sent into a solar system. Well, the only thing I could say about that is that the form aspect of the indweller evolves, and the indweller continues to inform that evolving being, right? Um, Anybody else? Any other thoughts?
Thank you, Francis.
Yeah.
I do. I'm thinking that the disciple, over a period of time, the Devas might add a substance to a higher or a lower level of one's being?
Well, actually, the way that works is the bringing into activity the next level of spirale within the, for instance, if you're a disciple, uh, all disciples are working to bring into activity the fifth spirale of the atom that they inhabit. Right? The monad stands as that spark in the center of the spherical atom, which is a human being, right? Which is all human beings demonstrate for spirale, which have to do with attainment in the last solar system of the physical plane, development of the personality in the first four root races, right? And we're beginning our journey into stimulating the fifth spirale, which won't be complete until we become soul-infused personalities, because it's related to the fifth kingdom in nature, right? So that's that when you said add substance, you're actually just activating a part of the substance that's already there.
Right. I'm imagining that we start out with a physical body that is a 3 or a 7 ray. Essentially, it can be something else, but there's we learn that as we are on the path, more and more a disciple will understand the kingdoms below, and that the kingdoms below, maybe I could say, become more aware as the disciple becomes more aware. It's a sharing of energy that will possibly result in more physical, well, at least electric shift in the levels below
Yeah. Yeah.
the physical kingdom.
Yeah, no, that's correct. But it's only instituted. Uh, it really comes alive when the human kingdom as a whole um, enlivens its fifth spirale. That's one way of saying. The other way of saying it shifts to the fifth uh, kingdom awareness. Then the facility, the white magical methodology of impacting in a correct manner the lower kingdoms, that stimulation will be greatly enhanced. It's all connected also with the Earth becoming a sacred planet, which will then have tremendous stimulation on all the kingdoms in nature, But the fourth kingdom has this very particular role, which is to act as a fulcrum point, a kind of Mercury-like position between the higher and lower kingdoms, being able to receive, be receptive to the energies of the higher kingdoms and transmit that energy to the lower. Okay, next up, he is not Holy Spirit, the expression of the first logos, the Mahadeva aspect, which is an expression of pure will or necessitous desire, impelling to manifestation. It is the fundamental motive itself, or the great will to be. So the first logos or Mahadeva aspect is pure spirit, that primal, compelling intention that drives life into manifestations. Its quote unquote necessitous desire is the imperative urge of being to express itself in the form world. If humanity was pure spirit, it would stand beyond duality and thus beyond form. Instead, because we stand at the midway point, we use form for our evolutionary process. Next, man is a product of the union of the two. He is the meeting place of matter or active intelligent substance. See, there's that word, Anne Veronica. See, it's qualified by this quality of active intelligence. And yet they're, he sets them up as being analogous, it's matter and active intelligence, substance, and as spirit or the basic will. He's a product of the two. He is the child born of their marriage or at one-ment. So the emphasis here is on humanity's at one-ment of spirit and form, which could be described as an integration of the active principle that makes form alive and the organizing intelligence that gives this active energy a purposeful trajectory, right? So there's just the pure beingness, that livingness, that's the father aspect, the spirit aspect. And then there's this organizing intelligence that comes through the third aspect, right? Active intelligence that gives that indweller or provides that indweller with a purposeful trajectory, which is the path of evolution. Finally, he assumes objectivity in order to express that which is in each of the two opposites, plus the result of their merging in himself. Boy, DK doesn't waste words. So, first, man expresses what is in matter, sensation, instinct, and the dynamic energies that shape his outer life. Second, he expresses what is in spirit, direction, purpose, will, and higher values in general. And then third, he expresses the synthesis created by the union of these two, an individualized consciousness that integrates active intelligence and intention. Outer living is the field in which active intelligence and direction can merge, thus bringing into consciousness the potentials of both qualities. You see? Any thoughts or questions? I'm going to read Tia's quote. You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop. That's Rumi. Definitional distinction is based on your point of reference. Thanks for that quote. Yeah, that's exactly it. So I bet you put this in when I was talking about the microscopic but undiminished deity that is at the core of an atom of substance. Certainly applies to that. So thank you. Yes, Jill?
I was reading about the father under the guise of Shiva last night, and I was startled to discover that essentially Ray 1 and Ray 3 we understand them to have similar qualities, at least I do. That was a laugh at myself because it's interesting to put 1, 2, and 3 together in different orders to see what happens. But here we have this empty space between 1 and 3, and it turned out, to my thinking, to becoming a backing into a statement by DK, basically that when we understand the 1 and the 3, we fill in the blank between, which is the role of Jesus Christ.
Well, yeah, that brings it into a very particular discipline, but the 3 comes as a result of manifestation. The 1 is absolute and forever. I almost said forever existing, and I realized that's an oxymoron, because he doesn't exist. It doesn't exist, right? The 3 comes as a result of manifestation. That's the shining sea of substance, right? And for 0.2 milliseconds, there's nothing else. And then in the, when the absolute drops one ray into that shining sea, consciousness is born and the second aspect with it, through the combination of the two, of pure spirit and quote unquote pure matter. So there is something that is a primal connection between 1 and 3, because it's, intention, pure intention on the one hand, and then the means by which that intention can actually manifest on the other, right? And then the result of the two is the pilgrim, the one who has the unrealized intention or pure spirit at the heart of its being, a monad for a human being, and then works progressively through awareness of intelligent activity through the plan, progressive awareness of the plan to grow that second aspect. Okay. Next up, we come to the second subsection on the question, why is the solar system evolving along the lines of duality? This subsection is called its nature and duality. Sorry. Can we get a reader, please? Whoops, I'm all over the place here. Let me get back to where there we go.
Kirsten, do you want to read?
To its nature and duality. In terms of quality, what have we? Active intelligence at one with will or power produces the son of necessity, as H.P.B. expresses it, who embodies intelligence, will or desire, and their united latent demonstration, love, wisdom. In terms of fire, how might we express an analogous thought? The fire latent in matter, itself a product of an earlier manifestation of the same cosmic identity, or the relatively perfected quality worked out by him in a previous cosmic incarnation, is set in motion again by the desire of the same identity to circle once more the wheel of rebirth. That fire, by friction, produces heat and radiation and calls forth a reaction from its opposite, electric fire or spirit. Here we have the thought of the ray striking through matter, for the action of electric fire is ever forward, as earlier suggested.
Thank you, Kirsten. So its in its nature and duality refers to the solar system. So first, in terms of quality, what have we? Active intelligence at one with will or power produces that son of necessity, as APP expresses it, who embodies intelligence, will, or desire, and their united latent demonstration of wisdom. So the child of spirit and matter is called the son of necessity because manifestation arises out of the necessity of the logos to express itself, and is thus the inevitable outcome of will and intelligence meeting in time and space. The Son, S-O-N, represents the soul or consciousness aspect, which through progressive initiations increasingly reveals the Christ principle through a demonstration of love wisdom. Next, in terms of fire, how might we express an analogous thought? The fire latent matter, itself a product of an earlier manifestation of the same cosmic identity, meaning a previous solar system, or the relatively perfected quality worked out by him in a previous cosmic incarnation, is set in motion again by the desire of that same identity to circle once more the wheel of rebirth. So we're talking about solar logos here. At the beginning of this second of three major solar logoic incarnations, the logos, motivated by will and desire, chooses to reincarnate. That desire sets the latent fire in matter, the inherent energy, vitality, and intelligence embedded in substance from earlier cycles of manifestation into motion once again, thus sparking a new cycle of activity. The quality of the third or matter aspect has been, quote unquote, relatively perfected because perfection of the third aspect was the purpose, the goal of the Solar Logos's first incarnation. Next, that fire by friction produces heat and radiation and calls forth a reaction from its opposite, electric fire or spirit. So here we have the thought of the rays striking through matter, for the action of electric fire is ever forward, as earlier suggested. Okay, the logos' desire stimulates the fire latent in substance. This fire by friction produces heat and radiation, which calls forth a response from the spirit aspect within. The direct motion of electric fire provides an invisible influence that lifts rotary motion into spiralic motion, which is a combination of the two, right? So the motion mirrors the idea of the marriage of the first and third aspects. Okay, thoughts or questions? All right, then let's a reader, please, for the next section.
Actually, Nadell,
Okay,
you had a
Nadell.
question?
I had a question or actually a comment. That all of this is referring to just that fragment of the divine that what's it the phrase
Having pervaded the universe.
yeah, from the fragment myself, yet I remain. That we're just talking about that fragment, which is all that appears to us to be so amazing is really nothing compared to what really is.
Yeah, Michael loved used to say, the largest system in the manifested universe is but an infinitesimal compared to the absolute, right? It's the same idea. Yeah. Good thing.
Did you want me to read?
Yeah, go ahead. Wait a minute, where are we here? Here, yeah.
The one ray electric fire drops into matter. This is the systemic marriage of the father and the mother. The result is the blending of these two fires in their united production of that expression of fire which we call solar fire. Thus is produced the sun, S-O-N. Active intelligence and will are united, and love wisdom, when perfected through evolution, will be the outcome. Electric fire or spirit, united to fire by friction, parentheses heat, produces solar fire or light. Hence, when the cosmic entity takes form, there is added to the active intelligence, which is the product of his earlier incarnation, a further quality, which is inherent and potential, that of love wisdom. This is the ability to love that which is objective or the not self, and ultimately to use with wisdom the form. Pure will is as yet an abstraction and will only be brought into full development in another incarnation of the Logos.
Thank you, Nadal. First, the one ray, electric fire, drops into matter. This is the systemic marriage of the father and the mother. So as a result of its descent, the one ray, in response to the evocative appeal of matter, opens a channel into substance. According to stanza 2 of the stanzas of Zahn in the beginning of this book, this current then organizes matter, this vortex, into 7 subplanes. At each subplane, the descending will meets the ascending response of substance, and a vortex forms, a self-organizing pattern capable of holding the energy of spirit without breaking apart. These vortices then crystallize into centers where spirit can anchor and then distribute its purpose through the structure it has created. And all this is done by the Deva kingdom, right? Every further descent, this is at the very beginning of the solar systemic life. So at the very beginning of the descent, it's a clarion call for the devas of that level to come back into activity and become the limbs of Brahma, as it were, to actually design and build the substantive aspect of that particular subplane of the cosmic physical plane. And then when that's established, there's a further descent. I strongly recommend you take a look at stanza 2, just thumb to the beginning of your copy of Treatise on Cosmic Fire, go to stanza 2. It's about, I think it's the longest stanza, 3 or 4 pages, and it's this beautiful old commentary that takes you through down to the 7th subplane of the cosmic physical plane. Okay, thoughts or questions? Keep them coming. Next, the result is the blending of these 2 fires and the united production of that expression of fire which we call solar fire. Thus is produced the SON. Active intelligence and will are united, and love wisdom, when perfected through evolution, will be the outcome. Notice it isn't instant. Electric fire or spirit, united to fire by friction, heat, produces solar fire or light. Yeah, light is a quality of the second aspect. The key point here is that through the divine alchemy of fire by friction and electric fire, a new fire arises that is qualitatively different from its 2 sources. The solar fire then becomes the source energy that produces, through the evolutionary process, a self-aware, independent, mediating consciousness that DK here calls the SON, sun. Okay. Next up. Hence, when the cosmic entity takes form, there is added to the active intelligence, which is the product of his earlier incarnation, a further quality, which is inherent and potential, that of love wisdom. So active intelligence was developed through the Logos' previous incarnation. Love wisdom is a latent but intrinsic attribute of this logoic incarnation. What happened between this and the last solar system that now allows for the emergence of love wisdom? Possibly this new quality gestated during the solar logoic pralaya between this and its previous incarnation. I mean, otherwise, where would love wisdom come from? all we're here told is that in this solar system, it emerges when spirit and matter meet. But since love wisdom didn't emerge during the previous solar system, either spirit stayed apart from matter, perhaps overshadowing instead of blending with it, or the energy of that solar system was such that the blending of spirit and matter only increased the quality and responsiveness of matter rather than producing solar fire. I tend to go with this second idea. Next, this is the ability to love that which is objective or the not self, and ultimately to use with his wisdom the form. So it is the light of solar fire that allows one to understand that form is the not self. Once, when one is completely identified with the personality aspect, you don't understand it as the not self. You believe it is the self, right? Our great, process is to come into awareness that our personality is other than who we really are, which is, progressively first the consciousness aspect through identification with the soul, and then later the Mahadeva aspect through identification with the monad. The relational energy of love wisdom thus produced then allows one to transform attachment to form into soul-aligned, purposeful stewardship of that form. It takes recognition of form as the not self in order to put oneself in a position to be a steward of the form. That's an aspect of service. Okay. I'm looking at Vivian's note. Is this not the role of man to be the expression through thought and language of consciousness? Yes, it's humanity's unique position, which is that it incarnates, right? The higher kingdoms have already mastered this process, but we really are a product of three aspects, right? The first and third blended to make the second. And our personality expression of that blending is thought and language, which once we recognize that it's an agency of creation, then we align it with the spirit aspect in order to be of service and constructively create. Okay. And finally, pure will is as yet an abstraction and will only be brought into full development in another incarnation of the Logos. Will or power, which demonstrates as electric fire, conditions our solar system through its influence on matter, but is in its pure form unknowable and unrealizable until a future logoic incarnation. We can only guess as to the effect of will on matter in that future time. Uh, you know, uh, Matter in that far distant time will be imbued with love, wisdom. And so the third aspect, as we know it, won't exist. You could say another way of saying is the second aspect will have, which is matter's ability to respond to the indweller, even in an atom of substance, will be the baseline for the next solar system, right? Okay. Next up, can we get a reader, please?
Kirsten, did you read?
Can I make a comment before?
Oh,
Yeah.
always.
Because my hand's been up for a while. I don't know if you've seen it or not. And Michael, I thought you were alerting him when people had their hand up.
Right. Shame on you, Michael. Okay, go ahead, Tia.
No, I think that this kind of works out beautifully when you just think about the concept of the blue books themselves, right? Because you have this whole concept of being, or because all of the blue books are consciousness, well, are really, you could consider a way of articulating in language what is fire, because that's what we're trying to get back to. And so if you have this thought or this idea of fire, and you have this limited substance, which we call the English language, the mediating principle that helps us understand or get to fire or that being state is our consciousness. And solar fire, which is our soul, the more soul infused our consciousness is, the more we can get or attain to that level of fire being an ultimate knowing. The problem is that when people read the blue book, they sometimes read it in a fundamentalist way, not recognizing that consciousness is ever evolving. So even when you look at an amanuensis, wonderful, like Alice Bailey, we're dealing with her consciousness, which was at one point in time. And so when we look back at it and people say, oh, this was wrong, this wasn't wrong. Well, our human consciousness, individual and collective, is constantly evolving. It's the one thing that you can't put a box around, even for hierarchy. They are still amazed at how our consciousness evolves. So this is a, I guess, to say this is a dynamic principle that we always have to realize that even when we go back and read the blue books time at time, depending upon where we are in our evolution and how much solar fire we're able to externalize in our consciousness, will we be able to even understand what's going on in these books?
That's really well said. Yeah. I have a friend who I read the blue books with way back. We're now looking at 40 years ago. Oh my God. Like for instance, this book we read twice. And in the second reading, it's like we hadn't read it at all. It was because we had changed, right? The consciousness that you bring to the table, whenever you read information that's given by a master, the consciousness that you bring is going to condition what you read so profoundly, right? So, yeah, really good ideas. Also, you can imagine DK's. It's almost like a crucifixion to have to work with English. Among the most non-spiritual of languages. Not to make a point of that so much as that compared to, for instance, Sanskrit or Sinzar. But yeah, good ideas. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, reader, please.
I'm still here too.
Oh, you're there too. Well, I don't know why my hands aren't showing up here. Okay, go ahead.
I'm introducing another avenue of exploration, and I don't think we'll go very far with it, but I'm extrapolating from what's going on with the sun. It comes down through the globe, and then it gets to the individual. And thinking that with each incarnation, the devas pick up what we were from before, plus whatever we've learned when we're not in the incarnation, and we are created based on that combination. So the Devas are here always with us.
Yeah, they reference the permanent atoms that hold a record of not of specific events, that's Akashic stuff, but of the vibratory states that we had achieved in through manifestation in each of our sheaths. That would also contain information about the unfolding of the activity of our spirale, you know, and that they work from there in terms of their form creation for us. Okay, reader, please.
Just a moment, Francis. Do
Go
you
ahead.
know why the hands are not showing up on your screen? Because it makes it a little bit disordered, not for you not to be able to see us and to keep unmuting
guys,
yourself.
I really don't think it is in that much of a disorder, since they'll probably get caught within a minute.
okay,
Like
guys,
if I'm
just
not
speak out.
entirely, yeah.
Is
Yeah.
that
Just unmute
okay?
yourself.
Oh, totally. Just speak
Okay.
out. It's
All
not
right.
like
I mean,
we have.
I just don't want to interrupt the flow.
No, I understand. Don't literally interrupt me, but other than that, just speak out. It's not like we have, 24 people clamoring to talk. So I just don't think it would be a problem. So,
Okay.
okay. And like I say, I really do appreciate your comments. It's adds more than just what you say. It creates a dialogue, which really brings life into this process. You know, I mean, if literally nobody, and I've had this happen, nobody says anything the whole thing, I feel like I took a book, went out and stood in the driveway and read from the book so it really enlivens the process. I appreciate it much. Okay, reader, please. Let's see. Did somebody say they're going to read? Hello? Are you there?
Kirsten, do you want to read?
Oh, sorry.
Yes. Mind or intelligence is not an abstraction. It is something that is. Neither is love, wisdom, an abstraction. It is in process of development or bringing into manifestation, and is the aspect of the sun. What is above stated is in no way new, but these thoughts on essential duality are gathered together in order to convey to our minds the necessity of viewing these things from the standpoint of their place in the cosmic scheme, and not from the point of view of our own planetary evolution and of man himself. Humanity is that evolution through which the sun aspect is to express itself most perfectly in this cosmic incarnation. Man blends the pairs of opposites, and the three fires meet in him. He is the best expression of the monastic principle, and might be considered from one very interesting standpoint the chef d'oeuvre of Brahma.
Thank you, Kirsten. Okay, so first, mind or intelligence is not an abstraction. It is something that is. Neither is love wisdom an abstraction. It is in process of development or bringing into manifestation and is the aspect of the sun. Okay, so the statement mind is relates to the fact that the primordial ray of active intelligence was developed during the previous solar system, and so is in this system a legacy attribute. Thus, through our developing discriminative capacity, we are able to intelligently organize our outer livingness, even as personalities. The depth of this development of this primordial ray has penetrated all the way down into the lower subplanes of the mental plane, right? Especially in this fifth root race, with its focus on lower mental development and the beginning stages of higher mental reception. Because of love wisdom, which is the unfolding attribute of this solar system, which is we have been charged with recognizing and developing our inherent interconnectedness and relational integrity just across the board. Love wisdom rules this quality of interconnectedness and relational integrity. In fact, love wisdom is so central to our evolutionary goal that the Christ's main purpose as Piscean avatar was to reveal what DK calls the presented attribute of love, thus literally grounding love wisdom in the entire lower quaternary where humanity lives and moves and has its being as personality. Next. What is above stated is in no way new. But these thoughts on essential duality are gathered together in order to convey to our minds the necessity of viewing these things from the standpoint of their place in the cosmic scheme, and not from the point of view of our own planetary evolution and of man himself. So again, let's take a look at MDR's thoughts on this passage. Can we get a reader, please?
Nisa, you want to read?
Yes, thank you. The term cosmic scheme is arresting. We're used to thinking of planetary schemes, but only rarely do we think of our solar system as a scheme in relation to a cosmic scheme. Yet to a cosmic logos, our solar system must be but a scheme, a solar scheme. Just as the planetary schemes are really as chains when compared to the solar logos manifesting through a solar scheme, so our solar scheme is really a chain within the cosmic scheme. Each entity in its own right may be considered a scheme. When we consider the entity in relation to the greater scheme that contains it, we're studying the essential duality of our particular solar logos and his system. Wherever there is manifestation, there is duality, but in our solar system, particularly, the factor of duality is paramount, for it is a love wisdom system related to the constellation Gemini. DK is in the process of decentralizing our thought, removing us not only from the human-centered position, but even from a geocentric position.
Thank you, Nisa. Okay, I'll just add that viewing our solar system as a scheme describes its relationship with the logos of 7 solar systems, of which ours is a part. Said another way, that it's only from the perspective of that higher logos that our solar system can be seen as a scheme, right? If you look at the solar system as the sum total, then the schemes become the planetary logoi within that unitary system, right? So seeing the solar logos as a scheme, which DK does here, right? It pitches the perspective up to the next level. Okay.
Interesting.
Yes, go ahead.
I was going to say it's interesting to think that when you talk about Agni or fire, one of its qualities of dynamic will is coherence. And so, since fire is present on all these levels, the nature of the fire or the energy is, in itself is always moving to a united whole. I mean, it's always coming back into itself.
Yeah, that's right. And I like your framing through fire. You know, what is the name of this book again? Right? A Treatise on Cosmic Fire. He's really putting the emphasis there. And you're right. Fire by friction generates heat that acts to attract the magnetic quality of solar fire, right? Then when that stage of solar radiance is achieved, then the uh, electric fire of spirit is drawn down. That's the actual meaning of the one ray penetrating the sea of matter. It's actually initiated from the material side on the path of evolution, right? So yeah, thanks for your comments. Okay, next, let's see what to do. Okay, next, a passage that DK considers important enough to italicize. Humanity is that evolution through which the sun aspect is to express itself most perfectly in this cosmic incarnation. Is not just one kingdom. So humanity during this solar logoic incarnation is not just one kingdom among many. It is the chosen kingdom for the fullest demonstration of the sun aspect. Other kingdoms express other aspects of divine life, but it is humanity that is destined to embody the Christ principle, and with it the capacity to mediate between spirit and matter, which means between the higher and lower kingdoms in nature. But that being said, we have to keep in mind that during the evolution of a solar logos, all the kingdoms in nature will or have already passed through the human kingdom. Also, it's he's talking more about a station of becoming represented by the human kingdom, but it's not exclusive of any monad, because all monads on the path of evolution during this solar system will pass or have passed through that kingdom. Also, since DK writes this statement from a solar logoic perspective, is almost certainly including the humanities of all the planetary schemes. So again, break that idea of being geocentric. Next, man blends the pairs of opposites and the three fires meet in him. So as the sun, humanity mediates between and blends all the pairs of opposites, leading eventually to an immersion of the influence of the personality ray, which demonstrates through fire by friction. It immerses that quality of fire in that of the soul ray, which demonstrates through solar fire. And then at a higher stage of becoming, but always overshadowing and at the same time standing at as the very central point, immersion of the soul infused consciousness in the influence of the monadic ray, which demonstrates through electric fire. This demonstration of triple fire is what makes the human kingdom unique among all the kingdoms in nature. Okay, and then finally, he is the best expression.
Could I say something?
Yes.
I was wondering if this concept of humanity being a you know an important point or an important part. If that is what is being reflected or misapprehended when a particular group of humans think that whatever it is they're doing, whether it's in whatever venue of society they are functioning, when they think that they are the chosen, is it perhaps a misapprehension of this idea that it's humanity?
Yeah, that's a good perception. I think there's something to that. They're locking onto a true higher ideal, which is this quality of unity. But as you say, they're misappropriating that understanding because they're doing so through, it's a real sixth rate thing. Therefore, it's the divisive, separative aspect of the personality that then, defines such and such a group as being the chosen ones, as it were. Well, in fact, we're all chosen. We're all chosen. The whole human kingdom is chosen. Um, yeah, so it's a misstart. This is the idea of the super race, in the Third Reich. Yeah, and there's many. We see it currently in Mohammedanism. Judaism has a history with this idea of the chosen people, right? But it's a misunderstanding the parameters of what defines being chosen are fundamentally misunderstood. That is, they're, as you said, misinterpreted, right? For instance, you can have a holy book that will give you certain ideas, and then you interpret those according to the personality, and you come up with a divisive, separative concept, which is the exact opposite of what's actually meant by the concept, right? Okay, so.
But rather than breaking it into terms of rays, another way of looking at it also could just be evolving consciousness. And again, people approaching texts, concepts, or ideas, not realizing that they are doing it from a point of reference, thinking that they are in the whole when they're only looking at it from an aspect of the whole.
That's exactly right.
And that's for everything. I mean, they say that Christianity hasn't been tried, and it just makes me think about Master DK calling it not Christianity, but what we have here is churchianity. Right. People, and because they don't, because what Christ taught, has not really, even from a sixth-ray perspective, been applied or even explored yet. Yeah. Because the point of reference and the consciousness is not at the level of a sixth-ray initiate who's trying to work through, another, a fourth degree initiate or something, a sixth degree initiate trying to work through a fourth degree initiate, and not having that knowledge or wisdom. So it just also gives us compassion to understand where people are, and not be so hard on them.
Yeah, and to recognize our own limitations.
Exactly.
This is why harmlessness is is essential, because even it's one thing to have a misunderstanding, but it's another thing to weaponize that misunderstanding, right? And so harmlessness will allow you to not accrue karma at least on that one point, while you're progressing in consciousness to a higher perspective. It won't tie you down to that point through some kind of activity or words that create karma and are harmful to others. So this is a really interesting concept. I don't know if it was DK himself. I think it was. His master, he might have been speaking about another master, but anyway, he had great devotion to his master, and his master said, this is your weakness. You have to expand that devotional quality to devotion to the plan. In other words, you have to upwardly shift the focused devotion to the master to that of the entire plan. That's just another example, very high example of what we're talking about here, all bringing in the quality of inclusivity. Okay, so let me go through this again. He is the best expression of the monastic principle and might be considered, from one very interesting standpoint, the chef d'oeuvre of Brahma. Chef d'oeuvre, or d'oeuvre, means masterpiece, right? So the masterpiece, Brahma's masterpiece. Brahma embodies the third aspect of divinity, matter, intelligence, and creative activity. Thus, humanity, as the fullest expression of the monastic principle, stands as Brahma's masterpiece, the highest demonstration of mind within this cosmic incarnation. DK rarely uses superlatives like very interesting or phrases like chef d'oeuvre. It's almost like he's inviting us to take a moment to appreciate Brahma's creative genius, right? Okay. Next up, could we get a reader, please?
Yes, Scott, do you want to read?
Did you say me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Didn't hear that quite. He is the sheath for the life of God. He is the individualized consciousness of the Logos, manifesting through the 7 divine Manasaputras, or heavenly men, in whose bodies each unit of the human family finds place. He is the Vishnu aspect and process of development through the intelligence of Brahma, impelled by the will of the Mahadeva. Therefore, in a peculiar sense, man is very important, as he is the place of at-one-ment for all the 3 aspects. Nevertheless, he is very unimportant, for he is not the apex of the triangle, but simply the middle point, if we view the triangle thus: Spirit Father, the Son or Man, Matter Mother. The evolution of the Son, S-O-N, or the cosmic incarnation of the Christ, is of immense importance in the plans of the being greater than the solar Logos. He about whom naught may be said.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, we're out of time. Boy, that really flew by. So we'll pick up. Actually, we'll read this and then explore it next time.